And
glad you
welcome
said
to
it.
the show, everybody.
It's, they don't need to, you don't need to even respond to those kind of terrible things. Those things are ridiculous. They just annoy me when people do things like that. It's just, and the more the more oxygen you breathe into it, the more they just go, and it's annoying. So
Oh
I
no,
agree with you.
it's not, no. I just needed to put a fine tune and like a pin in how I feel about Charlie Kirk, and how I feel about his legacy, and how I feel about everybody that votes for Donald Trump, supports Donald Trump, makes room or tries to create space for Donald Trump. And that goes for the U.S. men's national hockey team. That was the dumbest display of co-signing pedophilia and rape. That was the dumbest display. That is, Steve Schmidt said it in the warning today, and I agree with him. That's the dumbest professional team of athletes that has ever been assembled anywhere at the same time.
I'm smiling because I don't know anything about anybody who's still talking about that thing which happened last week, which is what the game of some sort. There was something involving the hockey, and
Yeah.
you're still talking about the hockey, and I haven't even I didn't even know it happened in the first place.
Well, it's caused. So here's the thing: is it's caused a serious rift, right? And I'll give you an example. Brady Tkachuk is the captain of the Ottawa Senators. Prior to the gold medal game, he said he hates Canada, and then goes and spends a couple hours with a rapist and a pedophile, saying it was the greatest honor of his life to meet with them, and validated everything that they did, and they earned that gold medal for Donald Trump. Okay, there you go. Matthew Tkachuk, grade 9 education, has a bloodline full of idiocy. His father, Keith, was the dumbest player in the history of the NHL. He said the same thing. And it gets weird with Austin Matthews, who was the captain of Team USA. And Austin Matthews is the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And he's probably the best American born hockey player in the history of the game. He's a very, very good hockey player. And he's built for keeping the noise out. He's played in the hockey mad market of Toronto for a long time. He's managed to keep his head above water and produce. He's having a record shit season, wins a gold medal, and then goes and shakes hands with a rapist, pedophile president who is threatening to annex Canada and threatening to destroy the Canadian economy, where he makes a very, very, very good living.
Yeah.
So
I think that does worry me a little bit. I think the reality of it is you can use sports to unite a nation, you can use sports to divide a nation, and you can certainly use sports to divide two nations. And I think the way the president is using this hockey team and sports in general, but this hockey team is exactly that. It's designed to create some sort of rupture in the way Americans feel towards Canadians and vice versa. And that's a pity because I think there's a lot more uniting us than dividing us. And we certainly don't want to keep encouraging this whole process of hating Canada because it doesn't exist except in the president's mind, except that he wants to take it over as the 51st state, and that's all wishful thinking. It's never going to happen, but he's going to try. Should we get into the breaking news of the day?
Because probably a good idea. Yes.
Yeah,
sorry about my soliloquy. It was very selfish.
No, I
of me.
enjoy
yours.
I enjoy your whatever they are.
Rants?
Rants, openings.
I went on a rant. Anyway, yeah, let's get to it.
The big breaking news today: Hillary Clinton is testifying behind closed doors in a deposition before the House Oversight Committee in Chappaqua, New York. Chappaqua. Bill Clinton follows tomorrow. Clinton's demanded the hearing be public. She told Comer, if you want this fight, let's have it in public. He, of course, refused, Comer being the head of the chairman of the committee. Then they started this thing, and then Rep Boebert, because she is Rep Boebert and cares more about Benny Johnson, who's this far-right extremist right-wing influencer, is probably paying her for this video of a photograph that he sent her. Broke the rules, took a photograph of Clinton testifying, sent it to Benny Johnson. It's just a breaking of the rules. It's bullshit. But the most important thing that happened today is Hillary Clinton has nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein as far as anyone can tell. She never met him, never went on the plane, never went to the island, you name it. The only thing that today was really about was Pizzagate. Because Pizzagate was the GOP's attempt to turn the whole Epstein thing into a thing about Hillary Clinton, which it never was and never will be. And they spent hours of the public's time. They spent hours of public money to interview someone who is a figure of their conspiracy theory that is not connected to the Epstein files. And that is the tragedy of today, is these guys are not seriously actually investigating Epstein. They're trying to pump up the idea of Pizzagate as it relates to Epstein. They're trying to make people think that Epstein really is about Hillary Clinton and the Democrats, when it's not. We know now that it's about Donald Trump and about Lutnick and about a bunch of other people in that circle of influence who are connected to a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah, well said. And the Pizzagate thing, maybe we should just kind of get to that real quick because a lot of people probably won't understand what Pizzagate is. If you could give it quickly a 10-cent tour before we get on with it, and I'll read Hillary Clinton's opening statement, which he delivered, and then we kind of move into the content. But what is Pizzagate? Kind of fill people
So
in.
Pizzagate was the conspiracy theory constructed by the people adjacent to the Republican Party. It obviously wasn't the Republican Party directly, but it was some sort of conspiracy theory spread online about a pizza parlor in Washington D.C. or I think somewhere around that area.
Comet Pizza. Yeah.
Comet Pizza, where supposedly there was trading or trafficking of underage girls and boys from the basement of this pizza place, which didn't have a basement, as it turns out. And this was an elaborate attempt to convince everyone that the Democrats had some secret cabal that involved human trafficking and raping young kids. As it turns out, that's not true. None of that was true. Now there was a human trafficking ring. It involved Jeffrey Epstein.
Yep.
And it involved certainly targeting a lot of Democrats, but it was not ultimately a Democrat cabal of some sort.
No, and Democrats were involved in it, but there is a cabal, and this is, and I think that when we get into it, a lot of people need to understand that conspiracy intimately if you get a chance to. And so where that leans into is sort of the language that is always used, the coded language. You might be seeing it in some of the Epstein files where they refer to young girls or women as different types of food, whether it be beef jerky, whether it be filet, that kind of stuff. And so what I get out of that before we get to the Hillary Clinton opening statement, what I get out of that is that, people have been trying to pre-hang the Epstein files and the Epstein cabal and the sex trafficking ring on each other for decades. They've been alluding to it. If you remember before Trump ran in 2016, he's like, I don't know, Bill's got a problem with that island. That island, a lot of bad things went on in that island. I mean, and then today I see a picture of Howard Lutnick with his two sons yucking it up with Jeffrey Epstein on little St. James Island. I mean, a lot of people have been there. And so Epstein has been this enigmatic sort of nuclear fucking blob that has been pushed from side to side for a long time. And that's why they're leaning into that with Hillary Clinton today in deposition. Now, I'm going to read you some pieces of Hillary Clinton's original statement. Now, Hillary Clinton clearly knows who Jeffrey Epstein is, clearly knows her husband was on the fucking plane several times as well. Bill Clinton is tomorrow, so I'm actually looking forward to his because I've seen pictures of him in the hot tub at Epstein's house, in the pool at Epstein's house, getting a back massage by a girl in a fucking airport. So, leave Hillary aside. You can say she's never been there. She absolutely knew about it. Everybody fucking knew about it at that level. So, Hillary Clinton, what? You want to say something?
No, we said maybe knew about it, but knew what about it? Did she know there was child trafficking going on? Maybe not. I don't know if she knew that. She knows that now, but I don't think she knew that at the time.
Maybe. I don't know. But, she was the president of the United States' wife. She was the fucking Secretary of State, if I'm not mistaken, for quite some time. She has access to that information. So I'm
learned about it over time, yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna just give her credit for the opening statement, but I completely disbelieve the fact that Hillary Clinton said she had no idea what was going on in and around Epstein. Okay? Because everybody fucking knew. We've been reading news stories about it for decades. He got convicted in 2008, for God's sakes. Everybody knew who Epstein was. The Obama administration knew who the Epstein was. The Clinton administration, the Bush administration, everybody knew what was going on. Everybody.
Yeah, although, it could equally be argued that Epstein was a very skilled operator who's targeting these high-level, leaders to blackmail them and to convince them of various policies. And for sure, Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton were a target of Jeffrey Epstein. So in that context, they might not have been aware of all these other things until much later on. Like the rest of us weren't aware until that actual, plea bargaining in 2008.
Well, let's get to her statement and then you can decide. February 26th, Secretary Clinton's opening statement. Mr. Chairman, ranking members of the committee, as a former senator, I respect legislative oversight. I expect its exercise to do the American people. We are principled, fearless pursuit of truth and accountability. No, neither party is. Let's just get that out in the fucking open right now. As we all know, however, too often congressional invitations are partisan political theater with an abdication of duty and an insult to the American people. The committee justified its subpoena to me based on an assumption that I have information regarding the investigations into, very important note there when language, investigations into the criminal activities of Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Let me be clear as I can. I do not, as I stated in my sworn declaration January 13th, I had no idea about their criminal activities. I do not recall encountering Mr. Epstein. I never flew on his plane nor visited his island homes or offices. I have nothing to add to that. Okay. Like every decent person, I've been horrified by what we've learned about their crimes. It's unfathomable. Mr. Epstein got a slap on the wrist in 2008, which allowed him to continue his predatory practices for another decade. Who was the president in 2008? Do you remember?
2008 was into Obama, of course.
Yeah.
So
There you go.
2009 was Obama. 2008 was still Bush.
Bush, okay. Which has allowed him to continue his predatory practices for another decade. Mr. Chairman, your investigation is supposed to be assessing the federal government's handling of the investigations and prosecutions of Epstein and his crimes. You subpoenaed 8 law enforcement officials, all whom ran the Department of Justice or directed the FBI when Epstein's crimes were investigated and prosecuted. Of those 8, only 1 appeared before committee. 5 of the 6 former attorneys general were allowed to submit brief statements stating they had no information to provide. You have held 0 public hearings, refused to allow the media to attend them, including today. Despite espousing the need for transparency on dozens of occasions, you have made little effort to call the people who show up the most prominently in the Epstein files. And when you did, not a single Republican member showed up for Les Wexner's deposition. That is a fucking stake in the heart of Comer. Really well done. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I can give bouquets and I can also
No,
question.
thank you.
Right?
I appreciate that.
The institutional failure. Sorry. Can I keep going?
Yeah.
The institutional failure is designed to protect one political party and one public official rather than seek truth and justice for the victims and survivors, as well as the public who all want to get to the bottom of this matter. My heart breaks for the survivors, and I am furious on their behalf. She then goes into a long 2.5 more pages, a soliloquy of how she helped survivors in all these countries and was But that is the most important aspect of that opening statement on behalf of Hillary Clinton. She nailed it. Absolutely nailed it.
Look, I think it's great that she absolutely singled them out for not showing up to the Wexner deposition. But back to the idea of this being about Pizzagate is Hillary was the one who was supposedly involved in the Pizzagate, conspiracy theory, was supposedly involved or the leader or whatever of this human trafficking ring. And that is, just completely incorrect and false. And the only reason that they are bringing her before this committee is because they're still trying to ignite the suspicion or at least create the confusion that Hillary is still somehow involved in this, when there's just nothing true about that. Instead of calling her up, they should be calling up Donald Trump, who is, although he's the current president, is actually proven to be involved in this human trafficking ring with Jeffrey Epstein. And where there is, multiple episodes and multiple allegations that he is involved in those crimes, including some which have been completely deleted from the public record and we're not seeing inside the Epstein files, which is the next story on our countdown, which is about the cover-up. But, people really are, this idea that Hillary is being confused in this way in the public narrative is exactly why this commission, this oversight hearing, and this whole investigation that Comer is leading is just propaganda. There's no intention here of them to actually arrive at anything real. They're just trying to create talking points, try to create a little bit of news here and there, and score points against the Democrats. They're not actually concerned about the fact that there is a organized criminal ring that is trafficking underage girls. They're not worried about the fact that there's a transnational criminal organization that is stealing $80 trillion out of the American taxpayer pockets.
You
They
got
don't
it.
care about that.
You got it. You got it. Well said, my friend. Well fucking said. Not only do they not care about that, nothing that I have seen from this administration in terms of the release of these Epstein files is as clearly an indicator of the guilt of Donald Trump, the president that James Comer and everybody else is trying so desperately to protect, as the now co-signed report from the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, NPR, New Republic, and dozens of other major mainstream media outlets that have been very friendly to Donald Trump. Now questioning what is going on with 53 missing pages from the latest Epstein files dump that include not one, not two, not three, but four 302s that belonged to a girl who was between the ages of 13 and 15, who attested in 2019 as a woman that Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein violently sexually abused her when she was a minor. These are 302s. These are witness statements, victim statements under fucking oath.
Yeah, it's really important for everyone to realize this is not just someone calling in a tip. This is someone who is sitting down with investigators, sometimes on
and on a
multiple
fucking
occasions.
Bible.
Yeah, saying, I swear I'm going to tell you the truth. And then that has disappeared out of the public record by an effort by the DOJ to cover this up, which is so important that everyone realizes. That Pam Bondi, the current Attorney General, on orders from the President of the United States,
You got
taken
it.
it upon herself and the entire DOJ and the FBI to delete these files out of the public
got
record. That is, sorry to interrupt your mode there, but that is beyond belief.
No, you have bolstered my incredible point. and I think that that's so important to remember as we have these conversations today, specifically this conversation, is that the GOP is not interested in transparency. We know that. They're not interested in getting to the bottom of who hurt these young girls, who destroyed these families, who trafficked thousands of young girls and women across the world on behalf of Jeffrey Epstein, Donald Trump, and everybody else involved in this bullshit, whether it's Jeff Staley, Bill Gates, and let's just add Bill Gates to the list. Like, Bill Gates came out yesterday and he's like, okay, yeah, I was on the plane and yeah, I had a couple of affairs with the Russian girls and I'm deeply sorry about that. Bill Gates is finished. Bill Gates is done. Bill Gates is fucking persona non grata. Bill Gates admitted to being in the throes of the Epstein files and being an absolute fucking disgusting, cretinous fucking pervert. Do I like Bill Gates? I don't give a fuck about Bill Gates. I don't give a shit about anybody involved in these files. Like, I go back to my original Charlie Kirk statement. If you were involved in any of this, deeply involved like Bill Gates was or like Donald Trump was, and you have questions to answer and you're not answering them because you're afraid of what it's going to do to your reputation, I got news for you. Your reputation's already toast. You're done. These people are done. Bill Gates is done. Bill Clinton's done. Bill Clinton's done. It doesn't matter what Bill Clinton says tomorrow, but I'm very, very interested to see and hear what he has to say. And the fact that this sitting government, the Trump regime, will not allow the American public. I mean, you are being defrauded of the truth on a daily basis. And these victims are being re-victimized every single day, that we don't have a complete fucking straight line into these conversations and these hearings, and that we don't have a complete accounting of everything that happened. And now we're finding out that 53 pages are gone that directly implicate Trump, according to allegations of a young lady at the time in the 80s who bravely came forward in 2019 to report on the fact that Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, under oath, sexually abused her for 2 solid years.
And this is not just the first of it. This is maybe the third or fourth person we have alleging all sorts of rape by, or even murder by Donald Trump or related to Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. So it's really serious. Bill Clinton has a real opportunity tomorrow to tell the truth. I mean, he knows exactly what Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump were up to. He knows because sometimes he was probably there, and at other times he has an opportunity to explain exactly how the financial crimes piece of this also worked, because he was a target of this attempt by a espionage operative to get into his life. Epstein was one of the first people to fund Bill Clinton on orders of the Israelis. They wanted to fund Bill Clinton in order to stop the Israeli Palestinian peace process. So, and the reason why Epstein was such a friend of Clinton, and why he was at the White House maybe 14 times, 14, it's a lot of times, is because of exactly that. Is because he was using it as an intelligence opportunity to learn about what Bill Clinton was going to do with the Palestinians and to thwart that peace process, which in reality was thwarted by Monica Lewinsky, which is a whole other, potential connection to the Epstein network. But my point is that Bill Clinton can put it right tomorrow. Bill Clinton could stand up or testify in front of that committee and say, you know what, here's the truth. The truth is that these guys are a transnational criminal organization. They're being funded to the tunes of billions of dollars by the Rothschilds, as it turns out. Both of them. I published a story today about, just reminding everyone that it was Wilbur Ross, when he was in charge of Rothschild in the United States, who bailed out Donald Trump's casinos. Now, what kind of coincidence is that you have Donald Trump being bailed out by Wilbur Ross of the Rothschilds, and that Jeffrey Epstein, his best friend, is also connected to the Rothschilds, not just accidentally connected to the Rothschilds, but maybe a hereditary heir to the...
Are you talking about Wilbur Ross, the former Secretary of the Treasury? That Wilbur Ross?
That same one, the former head of the Bank of Cyprus.
Weird.
Because they were friends. He paid him back all these great things. For many, many years, for 2 decades or more, Wilbur Ross was in charge of Rothschilds in the United States, and he was a specialist at bankruptcies. And when Donald Trump went tits up in Atlantic City, it was Wilbur Ross who convinced all the bondholders to keep Trump in charge of the company and to keep him in the majority of the company. Really unusual thing to do in the middle of a bankruptcy. So the reason why, Donald Trump survived that was because of someone working for the Rothschild Bank. The same guy, Wilbur Ross, lands up going to run the Bank of Cyprus, the legendary Russian money laundering front out of Cyprus, where a lot of Russian oligarchs moved their money. And then he comes back as the Secretary of Commerce for Donald Trump in his first administration. That smells to high heaven to me. I mean, that just is the most obvious, corrupt piece of knowledge you can imagine, with all these dots connecting. And no one's asking those questions. And they're not asking the questions, although they have started now, about Lutnick, who's the current Commerce Secretary, who's also related to all of these same people in this network. So, people really have to start asking those questions and realizing that if Clinton has his balls on, and if he's able to actually come on there tomorrow and able to do what he should do to save this republic, he would tell us all of that. He would tell us exactly who was what Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein were up to and who they were funding. The problem is the Clintons are also connected to the Rothschilds, because they're connected to the other family, the other branch of the Rothschilds, Linda Rothschild, who's also, by the way, connected to Epstein in another way. But it's a long story.
No, you bring up a couple of incredible points. Just a quick pit stop on Lutnick. This picture appeared today. Do you see this? You see that?
I can't see it. No, yeah, I can see it sort of. Yeah.
See that?
Yeah. Who's in that?
Oh,
that's
the
their little trip.
The guy in the blue. The guy in the blue is Howard Lutnick, and the island he's standing on is Epstein Island. The guy in the white is Jeffrey Epstein, and the young men next to Howard Lutnick are his 2 sons.
Oh, that's interesting that they had time in that 1-hour lunch as well to pose for photographs.
Oh yeah, and just have a great time. Just having a great time.
Because,
yeah.
They have all this time. That's great. That's
they're all guilty. I mean, they're all guilty. And back to Bill Clinton. Just to put a button on it, to your point, Bill Clinton can be a global hero tomorrow if he wants. It's what is the cost? Is the cost blowing up a 2-party system in the United States of America? 'Cause that is at hand, right? Yeah. That's a conversation that we're having, is that you have 2 parties it's not like I've said this many times about these two parties that we have in Canada, the Conservative Party, the Liberal Party,
Mhm.
is that they will hide each other's crimes because they want to keep on criming and they don't want the general public to know about all the crimes. Well, this one includes both parties, the Epstein stuff. So, Bill Clinton's under a tremendous amount of stress and pressure, and I could give two fucks. I just hope Bill Clinton steps up to the stump tomorrow, sits down, and goes, "All right, here's what I know. Yes, I carried on a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Here are the details of it. Here's who else was involved. Here's what I saw. And as the president of the United States, here's what I can air today.
Mhm.
Here's what I know. Here's why I know it. Here's what's important to me. Let's figure this out on behalf of the American people and chart a new course that doesn't include these two institutions that continue to defraud the American people." What am I looking at on the screen right now?
Yeah, I'm sorry to throw this in the middle of your
Please.
bit there, but
No, I'm done.
what you're looking at is the emails that I dug up out of the Epstein files related to a certain family called the Ritter von Epstein family, the Viennese banking family of the 1870s. Which for the most part, we've all sort of accepted the thought that Jeffrey Epstein was just the son of a sanitation worker, that he landed up being a teacher and got lucky in that job, and somehow landed up a partner at Bear Stearns. In the Epstein files, he pushes a very different narrative, which we can't prove yet, but it seems plausible enough that he's related to the Epstein banking family from Vienna, from Austria, in the late 1900s. And what's interesting about that is the Epsteins and the Rothschilds are very, very close together. In fact, they weren't necessarily competitors at the times; they were sort of allies in supporting the emperor of Austria and at the time. And so it would change the story dramatically if we found out that no, he's not just some nobody from Brooklyn. He's actually the hereditary heir to this brilliant banking mind out of Austria in the 1900s. Now, all of this might seem like, okay, what are you on about, Zev? What's interesting here is that he had all these emissaries and friends of his, like here is Martin Novak, the scientist who comes back from his trip to Europe and says Jeffrey Ritter von Epstein, which would have been Jeffrey's full name if he kept the royal titleage there, and Ritter means knight of, and so I won't go through all of these, but just a couple of them are really interesting. Um, Here is, sorry, let me find it for you.
I had a question real quick
Yeah,
before you get to the
yeah,
next email. Does
yeah.
Donald Trump have any connection to the Rothschilds in any kind of way? And a couple of people have already asked that in the chat, so I thought I'd bring it up.
You mean, well, he's certainly connected through the Wilbur Ross and the Rothschild bankruptcy.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
if
you.
it's a
Yeah.
family connection, we can't. I haven't actually looked at that in detail. I need to look at it in greater detail. But he comes from Germany. The line is there, so it's possible. It's quite possible that that's the case. Um, Here's another of these emails where Jeffrey Epstein is sending this to Eva Dubin, and he's sending her a link about the Gustav Ritter von Epstein from Wikipedia, which explains who it is. And then he says, "Can you believe there was a Justa Epstein?" And then he does this. Martin Novak, who we showed you earlier on, goes to Europe and actually finds the tombstones of this Gustav von Epstein and I guess his brother or something like that. Anyhow, the Epsteins ended up being bankrupt and they had to leave Austria, and they disappeared, and we can't find their lineage as clearly as we would expect to. But that doesn't mean that he's not actually connected to the Epstein family, and it potentially means that the Rothschilds may have picked up the Epstein banking family and the Epstein banking empire and continued
Mm.
on with it under their auspices, which would explain why Ariane is so close to Jeffrey Epstein to the day that he died, with all those emails between the two of them.
Yeah, dude, that is incredible research. That is unbelievable. Yeah, well done, Zev. I mean, that is that's unbelievable. If there is any kind of lineage or association, and I think what people don't understand when it comes to European families, royal families, specifically elite, legendary, sort of historic banking families that came from Europe who established the United States of America, what people don't understand is that those families are still together and have been for hundreds of years. It's like the movie Skulls. You ever see that? You know, the secret underground cabal of people in the government. Da 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 da. Well, that truly does exist, but it exists in a financial way, right? And it exists in and around. And the centrifuge, believe it or not, is the Rothschilds, the Bronfmans, the Epsteins, and several other families. And so, I go back to this all the time, but it's true. Those things that we would hear, growing up or in the past 20, 30 years about there being a secret society of the most well-known elites in the world. If you go to watch any Mike Myers movies like the Pentaveret, there's a secret. This is a secret society, but more importantly, these are people protecting their lineage and heritage and their finances and their money.
It is, and it isn't. It isn't. Here's the thing: is that we're told all the time, and I've been told this since I grew up. The Rothschilds are, part of the whatever the what was it called? The something of Zion
Illuminati.
Yeah, the Illuminati and all of that. And there's this rich family network in the world that rules the world. I've not found that. What I have found is evidence of the Rothschild, this one large banking family with a close relationship to various royal families in the last 200 years that are involved in all sorts of manipulation of the markets. And they've been doing it for a very long time. They were doing it in Europe in 1800. They were doing it all the way through to 1873, that big crash they had in 1873.
Mm-hmm.
And they always seem to survive. They always seem to come out better at the end of these collapses than they were at the start of them. Suggesting maybe, if you look at the pattern, as the same pattern that I'm talking about in 2008 in the crash, that, perhaps they drove the market up, they pump it up, then they get ready before it crashes, then it crashes, then they steal then they buy up all the assets at pennies, and they're the only ones able to survive the crash because they've been ready for it. And that's how you make a lot of money. You buy everyone else's assets as they're collapsing for a fraction of the price. And we've seen it here in the United States happen several times, from 1987 all the way through the dot-com crash, through 9/11. And we've seen it through 2008, which is what The Greatest Heist Book 2 is all about. But the thing is, this is a strategy. This is a thing you can see over and over and over again. And I think it's what they're doing again right now. The only thing is, we're all sort of catching on. Now we know that it's the Rothschilds, and that they hide behind this conspiracy of the Illuminati and all this other stuff because that stops people from writing about it.
Yeah.
We told you can't write about this stuff because you're writing about conspiracy theories.
Oh, you're crazy! Dude. It's that is. You know what the new version of that is? Russia.
Right, yes, exactly. Rothschild's very connected to Russia, by the way.
Rothschilds. Always the Rothschilds. Yeah. I mean, you bring up a fucking great point and incredible research. And if I could just stop for a second and encourage everybody to follow Zev Shalev at narrative.org right now, because I see so many people here that appreciate the work that you've done digging these things up. These are not readily available pieces of information in a skid, in a petaflop of information that so many people are going through. You, my friend, have done some absolutely incredible work, and I want to thank you for it in front of everybody today. And I hope everybody goes and subscribes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hit the chyron at the top. Hit it. Give him a sub. Make sure you follow Zev Shalev. Dude is undeniable, and we're seeing it again today. So thank you for bringing this up today.
If everything you've been putting into this work that you've done and everyone else has been doing so much effort to try and get the truth out, if it actually absolutely does expose all the financial crimes and all the financial manipulation that's been going on for the last 200 years, is worth every second of time and every second of everyone's and every cent of everyone's donations to get that out, because I think it's fundamental to how we continue in a world that is going to be free and prosperous for everybody and not ruled by a bunch of creepy elites who like to steal things. That's basically that's the
and
choice.
Sexually assault children and traffic women. Yeah.
Right. This is their way. This is how they want to run the world and are running the world. The number, where are we? Number 4? Number 4 story.
4.
Well, that was sort of, the number 4 story was the cover-up story. So number 3, if I can find it here, is all about this thing that happened in Cuba. And you actually know more about this than I do. This is a big...
crazy story.
It's a crazy story. You can tell us because it's on deanblundell.substack.com. You were first. That's what I learned about it today. Tell me more about what's going on in Cuba and this attempt by Americans to get into the island through some sort
Yeah.
of boat.
Cayo Flaco, which is a little area just off the coast, southeast coast of Cuba. So, wild story. And I'm having some due diligence done to try to get more information. But my sources are telling me, and I have sources, by the way. I have sources in the United States, Canada, and in
I
Europe.
believe you do.
Oh, I do. I have a lot of them. And I never print or talk about anything I don't know anything about. So let me just preface everything by saying we had a major international incident in Cuba, a boat that allegedly had a Florida tag, a Florida number. And if you know anything about maritime or boats, every boat has a number. That number dictates where it's from. First couple letters will dictate where it's from. So in Ontario, it's ON. That's where I'm from. Ontario and Florida, it's FL. And I know this because am I a power squadron pilot? Yes, I am. I can basically pilot any boat in the world. Little known fact, a lot of people don't know. Don't need to pimp that because it's
No
not
idea.
a cool
I had
thing.
no idea you could do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, absolutely. I can navigate any waters around the world. So, and I love it. I love being on the water. So, I was specifically interested in this story, and I got a text from a mutual friend of ours, who we'll talk about later, who said, "I need you to look into this." And so, I got connected with some people south of the border. That's all I'll tell you. And the story is, as I will explain it to you, very fucking interesting at a time when the United States is engaging in what they hoped was a very secret embargo of Cuba. They're not letting oil, supplies, food into Cuba because they're trying to starve those people. And depending on how you feel about Cuba, and the propaganda about Cuba, you're going to want to listen to this conversation. So here's what happened. 2 days ago, sorry, yesterday morning. Yeah, so it was about 2 days ago now, but 24 hours ago. A boat from Florida, speedboat, was spotted about a mile off the coast of Cayo Flaco, which is in Cuba. So Cuban Coast Guards went to the boat and they're like, "Hey, what's up?" And without a moment's notice, this boat from Florida, this American boat in Cuban waters, opened fire on the Cuban Coast Guard, seriously injuring the commander of the Cuban Coast Guard. So
Wow.
what did the Cuban Coast Guard do? They opened fire on the American boat from Florida. It's a speedboat. They killed 4 people on that boat, injured 6 others, and then took the 6 injured people and airlifted them to a hospital in Cuba. So we're yet to find out where these people are from, who they are, why they were in Cuba, and what they were there to do. The competing narratives that you're going to hear are these were American pirates that had nothing to do with the United States. These were Americans that were trying to save their Cuban cousins from death by communism in Cuba, which, by the way, has universal health care. Generally, people are very happy. Yes, they're behind the times because they're an isolated society. So you'll see a lot of cars from the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s running around. Yes, it is a police state for sure, but so is the United States. So we're kind of on the precipice of a different conversation, and that conversation kind of leans into, and I think it's really important that people understand that, a Gulf of Tonkin moment. And now, if anybody knows anything about how Vietnam started, the United States of America said we were shot at, and these things happened in the Gulf of Tonkin, which were completely misrepresented, and then Richard Nixon and everybody else. Sorry, I think it was Kennedy. It was Kennedy. Kennedy started the Vietnam War, right?
Mhm.
And so, long story short, we're now at that point where we don't know enough information. The United States government is not saying a fucking word. Like the Trump regime isn't saying a fucking word about what happened in Cuba, who these people were, who they clearly know who they are. And Cuba's singing. The Cuban delegation, the Cuban government is saying, "Hey, we've got these 6 people. We're trying to investigate, work with the United States, trying to figure out who they are." And now we're starting to see the generation of influence where you've got Trump proxies, US proxies saying this is an act of war. Those were legal fishermen. They were nowhere near the no fuck. They were literally like if you get a boat signature according to every boat will tell you where it was. This thing was a mile. 1.2 miles off the coast, clearly in Cuban waters, and they clearly opened fire on the Cuban Coast Guard. So is this a moment where the United States is trying to justify some sort of military attack on Cuba? Maybe.
Probably.
Generally, I think that's the general thinking.
Yeah.
Are these pirates that just decided they were going to go save, Cubans from?
No. That's
Are
a
these
stupid
people who
mission.
just got lost and started shooting a gun at the? No. So we're now back firmly in the area of the United States of America is trying to provoke a war with Cuba.
Which is not untrue, because in fact, after Venezuela, when they choked off Cuba's oil supply, it's really that embargo is an act of war on its own. An embargo is an act of war. So the fact that they are now not following up, but that there seems to be land, people trying to make land using weapons and a boat that are Cuban Americans. I think they're all Cuban Americans involved here. That seems like it could be exactly what you're describing, an attempt to start a war by creating some sort of conflict, some sort of.
Do you remember, like, 2 months ago, these American Mexicans took off from this SpaceX town on the Gulf of Mexico. It's called Space City. It's it's where Elon Musk has his like weird cabal of all the baby mamas and where he tests all his stuff. It's fucking weird. Space City's an entire other Substack live. And they literally took a boat across the Gulf and landed on a Mexican beach and put an American flag in there with a sign that said this is now American territory. And then the Mexican government went over and like, yeah, go fuck yourself.
That was very funny.
Pulled everything out. Yeah, and then these American same apparently according to Cuban officials wearing the same masked coverings, wearing the same street clothes as these Americans that came from Space City. There are these little incursions that America is trying to make and trying to pass them off as something that they're not. They are actively trying to start a war with Cuba.
Yeah, they are. Then that for sure is their next target. They've been quite explicit about being their next target. And Marco Rubio did speak about this a short while ago. He said that he had not enough information about it, but hopefully it's not as bad as he feared. I don't know what that means, what he was fearing, because I'm sure he would know exactly who the people involved are.
Cuban American Marco Rubio?
Yeah, I mean, really? You wouldn't know who they are?
Who has tried desperately to tell Trump that Cuba should be our next target? That Marco Rubio?
Yeah, I mean, they've said it out loud many times, and not only that, Cuba is their next target. There's a shortage of fuel right there, which is crippling the economy. They've stopped some flights from leaving Cuba. They really are struggling with a shortage.
Canadians aren't flying there anymore. Canada has canceled all flights going in and out of Cuba because they don't have enough jet fuel. And I mean, Canada's also anteed up and offered the Mexican government $8 million in aid for the Cuban people.
Yeah. And the poverty there is already bad. To add to that, no fuel and no supplies.
To prevent all the food and supplies from getting into that country. And you can have an issue with communism, you can have an issue with fascism, but these are a communist country and a fascist country, and the fascist country is trying to kill people in the communist country to break their resolve, to set them against the regime, to set them against their government. And Canada had, we're this country that's like, hey, there are human beings who are trying to eat, who need medication, who need fuel. And so we're going to ante up $8 million. And something happened today in Canada. I think this is really important. J.D. Vance's best friend is a guy named Jamil Javani. Jamil Javani is a Maple MAGA, so a Canadian MAGA MP for the Canadian government. Or not the Canadian government, in the Canadian government, not for the Canadian government. He's a conservative, which is a Timu Trump version of MAGA. It's just a fucking joke here in Canada. We laugh at them all the time. So he's this broadcaster who I've known for years, who is a absolute failure in broadcasting. Like everybody else in Maple MAGA and MAGA, they've failed their way up because they'll do anything for a fucking paycheck. This Jamil Javani is on a Charlie Kirk Canadian called Restore the North tour up here. Came out today and he's like, enough of the moral conflict. We're giving $8 million Canadian dollars to a communist regime. He's literally taking his talking points from J.D. Vance, who is his best friend in fucking university. That I know for a fact.
Yeah, didn't Vance? There was something else that went on today with Vance and a Canadian businessman. I don't know, some really weird thing someone said to me. I haven't really looked into it, but I thought you might know. But I don't know what that's about. But look, they're going after Cuba. There's no doubt about it. And I have no time for Raul Castro or any of the Castros or anything that goes on related to that family, because they, as well intentioned as they might have been at the beginning, boy, have they screwed that country and have become such a corrupt state. So it's time for them to go for sure, for sure. But
Yeah.
maybe war isn't the way to do it, but maybe it is. Who knows? Moving to the next story on the countdown. This one is really, really important. There's two stories that are very, very important. One is the Washington Post story about the attempt to rig the elections in November, but the other one is this one. So mortgage rates fell below 6% for the first time in 3 years today. Trump took credit at Tuesday's State of the Union, but what he didn't mention tells the real story. So Trump ordered Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae to buy up to $200 billion in mortgage-backed bonds to push rates down. So that's not a free market move. That's the government saying, hey, Freddie and Fannie, you buy these bonds. Let's get the market providing cheaper homes for everybody. And that is why you're seeing this decline in the mortgage rates. But he's doing this only to win the next elections. And it's one of the first signs we're seeing of him actually juicing the market in order to get the economy humming again so he can win in November. Everyone needs to pay attention to that story. It's a really big story.
Juicing the markets. Juicing the market. Are you telling me? Are you telling me that Donald Trump has forced the market to lower interest rates on mortgages so that he can get reelected in 2026? Is that correct?
That's exactly what he's doing. He's going to do that across the board. Inflation, he's going to do that in a whole bunch of things. Look, he's not the only president to play this game. Lots of presidents play this game.
Sure.
But he's playing it in a very, very big way.
Yeah, that's the shitty part, right? Like, that's the shitty part, is that, so many people have, this bias according to the party that they serve. But dude, I got to tell you something. This is politicking 101. This is like, $2,000 checks or rebate checks or $150 check for your kid. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. I wish, the power of the people truly understood what 99% of us could do to the 1% in this situation. I wish we truly understood that. And I wish we truly voted like that. And that's been, one of the biggest issues that I've had for a very long time, is that I've never understood the ratio of us to them, right? Where you see this clear payoff. And in Ontario, we have a premier who does this literally weekly, where he's like, I'm going to make sure you get cheap booze in grocery stores. I'm going to make sure that we give you a rebate check. I'm going to cancel your $30 fucking, registration for each one of your license plates. I'm going to make sure that I'm just going to give you some money and you're going to be okay with it. That's what this is. It's just another fucking cooked up bribe, to your point.
Yeah, and it's going to. But the thing is, this actually does work. So as the economy starts performing much better in the next few months, and maybe even the reversal of tariffs will help the economy perform better, it means that those Democrats who feel very confident that they're going to win in a big way in November, and they should be feeling pretty confident. That's what the numbers are showing. It's going to get tighter and tighter and tighter. And this is one of the things the president is doing. The other thing he's doing is what the Washington Post is reporting today, that pro-Trump activists who say they are coordinated with the White House are circulating a 17-page draft executive order that would declare a national emergency over elections based on the claim that China interfered in the 2020 vote. The emergency would empower the president to ban mail ballots and voting machines unilaterally, bypassing Congress, the state, and the Constitution. The Save America Act, which would have required proof of citizenship to vote, passed the House but died in the Senate. Now, Trump said if Congress won't act, he'll do it by executive order. This is that order that he intends to put in place. This obviously is an attempt to steal the elections. He shouldn't be allowed to get away with this, but he's certainly going to try. Of course, China might have been involved in 2020, but it's certainly not the biggest of the suspects in who stole that election. It certainly wasn't about China giving Biden the win.
Do you know what I wonder? I wonder if in the Trump regime they have one of those bingo wheels, the one I'm talking about that sits on like a peg, and then it's got a wheel. It's got these pegs all the way around the wheel and a piece of pie that's got like an excuse.
Yeah.
And they spin that on a daily basis when it comes to who fucked up his chances of winning in 2020.
Yeah.
Because so far, if I'm not mistaken, it's Puerto Rico, it's Venezuela, it's Italy. Don't you forget Italy.
Yeah.
Remember
I
Italy?
remember that.
The
Bill Barr went all
Italians
the way
did it.
there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
On a
It
vacation.
is Russia. It is Venezuela. Smartmatic machines in Venezuela.
Yeah.
Remember that? They all came from
Yeah.
Venezuela.
The
That fucking
Iranians involved.
Venezuelans.
The Iranians
The
also gave it to Biden.
Iranians did it.
Yeah.
And now we've landed back on the spin the wheel as to what country that we need to vilify for screwing up Donald Trump's chances in 2020, which is a total fucking bullshit lie. Boom, it lands on China. Oh my God, China. What can we do with China today? I truly believe that. I believe they have a foreign interference wheel that they
If you notice, it's very
spin.
rarely Russia and it's very rarely Israel. It's always, it's always the other countries that actually didn't interfere or didn't obviously interfere in those elections. This is look. You can blame a lot of people for interfering in elections in America. Russia and Israel are amongst the first of those two. It certainly did not. The Chinese had no interest in helping Biden get elected in 2020. They have much more interest in Donald Trump being elected because, the two times that Donald Trump has traveled to China, that the Chinese have invited an American president over, it's Donald Trump that they invite over. And they give him this special treatment. They take him to all these incredible rallies. They give him the most amazing reception. They didn't do that with Biden, but they sure do it with Donald Trump. They did it the first time, and there's another trip coming to China soon, which, is likely going to be the same thing. China really stroking his ego and pretending that they're very happy with the relationship, which they aren't, which they are really happy with. The pretense part of it is that they helped install Donald Trump in the White House, which is why they're happy he's there, because he's helping them win on many, many fronts. But those two things combined, and those are the two stories at the top of the countdown today, are a perfect example of how Donald Trump intends to win in November. So it's not a good time to let down your guard, everybody. This is as serious an emergency as it's ever been. And you can bet by November, the numbers are going to start to contract dramatically, and it might be a tight election.
Well, if what I saw today, Harry Enton, who does a great job for CNN, I don't like CNN, but Harry Enton does a great job. He's a numbers guy. And he went through the numbers in Texas. And there are bellwether polls, bellwether information that everybody can take with them. And the state of Texas is a literal MAGA shithole, right? Literally run by the world's worst fucking maggots. They're underwater by like 10 points. Trump, the GOP, Republicans, they're underwater by 10 points in Texas for the first time in 60 years, if I'm to understand that correctly.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, the Democrats used to hold the South, but not for decades. No. It became a Republican country.
No. And Texas is a held state. Texas is one of those states that 4 or 5 religious, hyper-religious, super Christian nationalists, born-again Baptist, evangelical families that are billionaires in the oil industry literally run. They'll tell Ken Paxton what to do. They'll tell Wheels Abbott what to do, and they do it. And Texas is about to experience, I think what the rest of the world is going to experience is this incredible rebuke, this embarrassing rebuke of Trumpism, who Trump is, what he is. And then you're going to start to see, and I talked to Schmidt about this on the warning today, Steve Schmidt, everybody go and follow him today. We're going to see a Moffin Maiden movement. And if anybody understands anything, and I love history, I love World War history, specifically my grandfather landed on the beaches of Normandy. So, for the Allies, and made his way through not only Africa, but also made his way through Europe along with his brother. We have a deep family history when it comes to standing with allies, standing for democracy. My family was one of the first in Hitler's bunker after the Russians plundered it. So I've read a lot, I've studied a lot, and this Moffin Maiden movement after the Second World War is coming for the rest of MAGA. And what the Moffin Maiden movement was every collaborator, every single one, in Denmark, in Holland, in Belgium, in Luxembourg, in Romania, in Ukraine, across Europe, every collaborator who gave any kind of comfort or aid to Nazi occupiers, they were summarily dragged into the streets, tarred and feathered, had shit rubbed in their faces. Some of them were branded. Some of them were carved at Nazi symbols like swastikas in their foreheads. And their children and their entire lineage was stained for life to the point where so many of them left their towns and countries, changed their names, but couldn't get away from the fact that they had aided and abetted the Nazi regime. That time's coming, people. It might be digital. It might be real. I'm hoping there's less head shaving and shit smearing and tarring and feathering and abusing the children of collaborators. But, there's going to be a time that comes for Americans, specifically MAG Americans, where Pete Hegseth's kid and children and lineage, Kristi Noem's family, Stephen Miller's family, they will never be able to escape the stain that they are and what they have done to the American people, what they have done to the allies of America, what they have done to their fucking neighbors. They will never be able to escape it. And I think everybody here that's watching this, and you're smart, that's why I know you're smart because you're here, needs to kind of take comfort in that, because I got to tell you something. I'm going to stand back and watch. There are lots of us that are not interested in you might be different than me because I've got a bit of a hard edge to me, Zev. This is not going to be, Nixon when he got sent to California and Gerald Ford goes, let's just calm it all down and we're not going to charge him. He can go live in California. He's done. It's coming. Mob justice works both ways.
I agree with you. I think that awakening is going to happen to most Americans, and they realize how destructive MAGA has been. I also really, just to tie it back to Rothschild, as you were talking there, I was thinking, you mentioned your grandparents, is that grandfather did that amazing?
Yeah, my grandfather, William Mallandine, yeah.
That's
and his
amazing
brother.
that there's that you have the same sort of zeal as he did.
That's why I have it. I got to tell you something. I have family members that have plates and bowls from Hitler's bunker as keepsakes from the sacrifice that our family and so many other families in allied communities made. I grew up with a picture of my grandfather. I'm going to get emotional talking about it. Walking with his brother. They were royal photographers who left their very cushy lives to go and document and fight the war. And left their families, including my mother, including my grandmother, and went across the ocean to do what we all know to be true, which is support democracy, which is defend democracy, defend people who can't defend themselves. I have taken this so seriously. And this is, I think, a warning to everybody that thinks that this is a joke to me or this is some kind of performative job. It's not a job. This is my life. This is who I am. And I honor my grandfather every day with what I do. And I know he's proud of me. And so many of us who have family members who sacrificed the most during the Second World War are here today because we don't fight those fights on beaches anymore. We fight them here. And we fight them with influence and research and goodwill and effort. And that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here.
It's thank you for everything you do, and thank you for your families and everything they've done. But let me say that it's interesting is going back to the Rothschilds as you're talking there. I was thinking, the Rothschilds, maybe they didn't fund Hitler. That seems to be a claim that can't be proven. But there is some evidence, even in these Epstein emails, about how Hitler may have stayed at a shelter that the Rothschilds had funded. But they also did definitely fund Napoleon. It seems to me like maybe they've funded Donald Trump. And you look at the kind of history and that kind of mapping of how much these this particular rich banking family may have been involved in the rise of so many of these despots who are so war hungry, and you realize, a lot of this is also stoked by outside forces who are trying to, war could be very profitable. War is a very, very profitable thing if you're ready for it, if you're invested in it, if you're putting in all your money at the right time, you'll reap those rewards when the war actually starts.
Mhm.
And that's probably in the thinking of many of the people involved in this Rothschild's universe who might be thinking, hey, this is a good idea. Let's start a war. We've done it before. Each time it's worked pretty well for them. They've come out richer. They've come out stronger. And throughout all of that, they've also been able to escape any criminal penalty, which, is just sad. So I don't know. That's a bit of a tangent I went on. I was weaving there.
No, no, no,
But,
no, no.
yeah.
Listen. I think some of, and I think this is true. It's specifically for someone like you, and I see so many people giving you flowers in the comments for your incredible work because this isn't just recent. Zev's been at this for a decade. Zev's been at this doggedly, and to the point where it at times in his life destroyed him, and he is not given up, which is why everybody needs to hit that Chiron at the top and give him a follow and appreciate his work. Give him a sub and appreciate his work. But what you're talking about is the unearthing of everything that troubles all of us in America. And it's specifically a couple of elite families that have done terrible things to people that have bet on the other side, whether you want to call it shorting the war market. They've made a ton of money. And, I don't know. Here's the fucking crazy part. You probably know more about the Rothschilds than most, but I guarantee you don't know anything about the Rothschilds. I know nothing about the Rothschilds family. I can't tell you where they are. I can't tell you what they look like. I can't tell you where they live. And that is by design, right?
Yeah,
So I
they
think
bury
one of the
it.
next steps, according to the incredible work that you do, not to put more work on your plate, is to out all of them. It's to tell that story from nuts to bolts, start to finish, and finish with today and what's happening to us. Because we don't live in an age where you can hide that information anymore. The internet's fucking awesome, right? Like
Yeah, and
we
this is
don't
the
we
thing.
live in an age where the Gettys and the Rothschilds own every major daily newspaper in the United States. We don't.
You know, they will come for me because they do. I know they do. And when I did a story a few years ago about Wexner, I did a show called the Snake's Head. Uh, I found out very quickly that Wexner was not happy about that, uh, I through back channel sources was figured out that it was him who was doing some bad shit to me. And I know that the Rothschilds are not dissimilar. Maybe they're in fact exactly the same thing. Maybe the Wexner Empire is the Rothschilds Empire, is the same thing, and maybe that's what he was doing in his deposition the other day when he revealed that he called Ellie the Rothschild for his reference on Jeffrey Epstein. That's how he got the job for all the
Mhm.
work that the Rothschilds had Jeffrey Epstein do for them over the time that they knew him, which must have been, about 6 or 7 years at the time. So, it's not, it's one small, relatively small network that is causing a lot of pain to the world and to America. And we're just beginning to dig into who it is. So I'll put that on my list of things to do and I'll
Yeah,
get
yeah,
on it.
yeah. No, get to it. Like you need to move everything else off and do that for me.
Yep. I'm on it. There's a good article about the latest Rockefeller stuff, the Rothschild stuff on my on narrative.org right now.
Mhm.
What's at deanblundell.substack.com?
Oh my God. Today, Denver Riggleman and I had an incredible
Fucking
time
funny in
reading.
Denver.
Oh my God, he is so fucking funny. Former Congressman Denver Riggleman. He's an AI genius. He is a tech expert, but more importantly, he's a comedian.
Really funny. I did
And
not
he's a
expect it. I've interviewed him before and being very serious about it, and then it turns out that
no.
he's just this. He's a laugh a minute guy.
So
It's really funny.
funny, and he's a great human being, and he has no time for conspiracy theories or anything that isn't fact based. So what we did today, as you know, Casey Means, who's an influencer, who's all into the woo woo,
Mhm.
is has been tapped and nominated by the Trump regime to be the next Surgeon General. Yesterday, she had a terrible day in her confirmation hearing, where she was outed as basically a Maha maggot, right? Like someone that just pushes bunk health theories and hates birth control and doesn't have any belief in women's rights and a woman's right over her own uterus, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, we read some things that Casey Means has put out over the past couple of days.
Yeah.
One of them is a satanic wellness poem
Okay. Is if that's
The
something
other
that
one,
exists? This is
yeah,
the
yeah, no, it is. Yeah, no, she said it exists.
she's the
Yeah,
Satanist?
she wrote it. No, if she was the devil, she effectively tried to equate everything bad when it comes to health and behaviors and social, interaction in the world to, what is going on right now to Satanism, right? So there's that part. And then we talked about her history and how she manifested a husband. She's going to be the fucking. And by the way, she's not a doctor. She never finished her residency. She doesn't have a medical degree. She's been calling herself a doctor. She's just here for the Trump
Crazy.
and Maha agenda. Like nothing. She's just and she's got this basil seed farm where she says her basil seeds can cure everybody of everything, all their metabolic issues. But the funny part was we read this 8-step process that she encouraged other.
8-step
I'm
process in
sorry.
what?
She she encouraged other women to partake in to find a husband where she goes out in the forest and talks to the trees while super fucking high on mushrooms.
Oh, okay. That's fun. I have no problem with that. I endorse
I
it.
love mushrooms.
I endorse it. You guys go talk to the trees. I love it.
Yeah,
I
but
think
not
it's
for
great.
not for the Surgeon General of the United States in charge of
I
6,000
don't even
brilliant
mind it if the
medical.
Surgeon General does it. Maybe they send Donald Trump to go and talk to the trees. If he went to talk to the trees, we might not be in the problem we're in right now. We'd have no
We'd be
problems.
here. Yeah, we'd be
He'd be
here.
on LSD. He'd love it. He'd be all into it. He'd be loving. He'd be seeing visions.
Anyway, you can find all of that at Substack. DeanBlundell.substack.com, 30% off for your annual subscriptions. Lock it in for life. And there's one more piece there that you probably should have a look at. It's a very detailed look at what Donald Trump has forced the FBI to take out of the Epstein files, which is this 53-page manifestation by this young lady who was super brave between the ages of 13 and 15. Hey, easy.
The dog wants to go out for a walk. Just
Yeah. Someone's at the front door, I think. Anyway,
I was like,
yeah.
hey, in an hour.
I know.
Over,
She's like,
get on it.
Hey, I'm with Zev. Relax. No, easy. No, easy does it. She's good. Now she was. Anyway. Thank y'all for joining us today. Really appreciate you being here for the FiveStack. I'm going to get out of here before my dog upstages me. And don't forget, everybody, please follow my friend Zev Shalev, narrative.org. He is amazing. He's dogged. It's been a decade in, and now he's finally making sense to everybody else because he's been a thought leader in this space for a very long time, and I want to thank you for it, my friend.
Thank you very much. DeanBlundell.substack.com. We can just go back and forth like this all day. You one of the best. I'm going to say good night and goodbye. We'll be back at 7 p.m. with Lev Parnas and Ellie, 7:30. Ellie Parnas.
They're married?
Ellie Leonard.
They got married?
And Lev Parnas will be here at 7:30. We're going to look into the Epstein files, play some new tape that I've discovered, and we'll talk more about this stuff that we've been talking about tonight, about the Rothschild. Plus, Lev got that thing right about the China story. That was his story a few weeks ago. He predicted that was going to happen. He is plugged in.
Dude, Lev Parnas. Quick little fucking pump up for Lev Parnas.
Yeah.
He hasn't been wrong once.
No, he's connected. He knows shit, which is really good. So everyone should follow him too. And DeanBlundell.substack.com. And have a great day, everybody. We'll see you again tomorrow on the FiveStack.
Bye, guys.